Okay, so point number 7, or technique number 7, or strategy number 7: employ progressive refinement. This starts off with the understanding that really your site's never going to be done, right? There's always going to be something that you would like to do to it, something that you would like to change. It's always going to be an evolving process anyway. And since it's always going to be evolving, as a practical matter, you are refining it progressively. So what I recommend that you do is that you build a skeleton that matches your plan. Really, that means essentially setting up the pages, right? If you watch my course, again, you'll see that I create the pages long time before I ever put any content in them. In fact, I create my pages and then I sometimes put dummy content in them, and I give them sort of base level titles. But then as the site progresses, as I refine the site, I go back in and I change those titles to be more appropriate or something that I think is better. So I start off with my basic plan, and then I build those pages, and then once I've got my basic plan in place, then I start adding other stuff to them. And something that can be very useful, especially say you're designing a site, would be to create placeholder elements for things that are not completed. Actually, I'm going to use my friend Tom as an example yet again. I should have asked his permission for this, but I didn't. I'm sure he's not going to mind. Here is a layout for, oh, come on. Oh, great. Fine. That one's not going to work. Let's try that again. Well, that's a little crazy. There's apparently something wrong with this well, let's just try a different browser. Chrome is choking in this browser, it looks like. I mean, on this monitor. This is my second monitor. There we go. Okay. So, Tom's got one of our members, Julie Cloutier, has done this design for Tom. And this is sort of his basic layout of his homepage. Okay, and then as we go on to actually creating this for him, we find that, we don't really have the artwork yet for the sliders. So what we'll do is we'll take that artwork and we'll just take something and we'll create a slide out of dummy content so that we can construct a slider, get the slider in the home page, get it configured correctly, knowing that the dummy content is going to get replaced with real content as we work our way through it. And that's an example of progressive refinement, right? What we've done is we've set up the space for the slider. We've put the slider in, installed the slider, and we've built some dummy slides so that it fits in the space while we are awaiting the actual artwork to actually build the slides. Progressive refinement also means just adding rough drafts of your content to your pages and initial posts. So what I recommend that you do is, even if you write your stuff in Word or in Google Docs or in something else, not inside your editor, before you are finished with your draft of it, before you've finished proofreading it and before it's all perfect, you go ahead and move the text in the draft stage over to the actual page where it's going to belong. Because there's a lot of design work that you may need placeholder text for anyway. And so I strongly recommend that you do you put your draft version of your text and the page and publish the page. Don't save it as a draft, but recognize that it is a rough draft and you're going to come back in and change it later, but you're going to actually change it inside the editor. This is another method of progressive refinement where the actual content may be in its rough draft form, but it is nevertheless filling up the pages so that you see what a page full of text is going to look like. And then it also gives you the ability to come back in and tweak it while it still does double duty as being a filling up a page. It also gets you used to the idea of starting off with a skeleton and gradually adding the flesh onto that skeleton. And as you're doing that progressive refinement, when you're working on graphic elements, unless you've got a design like Julie's where it's already designed all the way down to the gnat's eyebrow, and so doesn't actually need any refinement any longer, I recommend that what you do is you just get your stuff to what seems like about 80%. So you get your graphic design elements to about 80%. Maybe you got the right font size, but maybe it's not the perfect color and you're going to go back in and change the color. But you just get your main graphic stuff to about 80% and then let it percolate. Just let it sit there while you're working on the rest of your site. And if you get used to thinking about your site as always in a state of development, then you're going to get your site done sooner. You're going to get your site working on your behalf sooner because it is... Sorry, my mind went ahead and I just lost my train of thought. You're going to get your site done sooner if you employ progressive refinement because it doesn't... You're not going to have the mindset where it's got to be perfect before I can get it onto there. And we're going to talk about perfection in just a minute. Anyway, employ progressive refinement. Build the thing in stages, lay out a skeleton, and gradually add flesh to the skeleton until it's essentially completed.